I don't recommend you necessarily do it. I don't give a f if you do or don't, but this is how I got this big, was heavily reliant upon exogenous hormone support. What's up guys, Derek, moreplates108.com. Today we're going to be reacting to Jujimufu on his newest video, heaviest I've ever been, how did I get this big? So here is a before and after of him at 200 pounds and him at 260. He still has visible abs. The guy has packed on a shit ton of muscle. And this is not even an unflattering before picture. Like, he's pretty fucking jacked here, but if you've seen him as far back as like the OG Antoine tricking days back when they were teenagers, he's come a long fucking way. He wasn't always built like a goddamn brick shithouse. In fact, he was a pretty skinny guy to begin with. Like, this is clearly after years of working out still as the before. This looks a lot older than I would assume before he started the bulk. So presumably this is not the start of the bulk here 6 months ago or whatever, but you know, you never know. I don't follow his stuff closely enough to know, but it looks like he is, I would assume this is a younger version of him. So anyways, the reason we are stumbling across this video is because he's talking about how he got so big, you know, like specifics about the actual things that made him gain the muscle, which you would assume, wow, like, is he actually going to be talking about anabolics in this video? Because I know recently there's been a bit of a you know, tangent that the channel has gone in a different direction without the former partner of the channel that was associated with it is now gone. And you know, as far as I know, Juji has never been one to like bring up the topic in elaborate detail or anything like that. But I assumed, like, if you say how I got this big, like, you're at least going to, in passing, mention the drug use, you know? Because it's like, it would be negligent to avoid the topic entirely when it is literally the deciding factor in how you accrued this much super physiological contractile tissue. Like, there's no way you could get to 260 with visible fucking abs doing a natural bulk. So like, obviously when you say, how did I get so big? You know, it's implied that we're going to get some sort of insight into your off-season protocol. But disappointingly enough, there's no mention of it throughout the whole video. So it starts off with him doing a little joke with his cat, coming in looking house as fuck. Here he talks about, I'll let him talk for a sec here.
You're feeding yourself in order to gain size.
More.
We're gonna start with the diet itself when we're talking about bulking, right? Because it probably makes sense. We need to find a whiteboard. All right.
Okay, so he goes through a lot of dieting principles and things that he's implemented that he's had success with, you know, increments of progressive overload and shit like that, and like how you, like, he basically outlining your progression here.
One day, 315-pound bench press or whatever. It's going to be the same thing for bulking. You can't go from a 155-pound body weight to a 350-pound body weight, straight linear progress. Your bulking doesn't work that way, okay?
Exactly. So obviously I agree with that too, and it's not something you should really try and push the envelope to force, because you're just going to overspill and get fat as fuck. And we've all done that before, of course. And he's looking pretty fucking lean here still, and obviously he had visible abs on the thumbnail, so presumably the bulk was quite successful. So most of this video is outlining dieting strategies and kind of what goes into, you know, titrating your way up to your end goal at the end of the whatever duration of time you've kind of allocated. And he also goes over allocation of time, like how long you should be bulking for, if you should reverse diet, things like not and when I say that, I mean instead of reverse dieting up, you know, after a dieting down phase, it's more like taking a break from eating so much sort of thing in order to reverse back down a little bit to a more tolerable food amount if you experience GI distress and things of this nature. And that's all well and good. Like, there's actually a lot of practically very useful tips in here that a lot of people may learn from, newbies and beginners for sure, and things you would only learn through trial and error over several years. A lot of people think, oh, you know, a bulk, it's so simple, just throw in fucking a surplus of calories and that's it. Like, obviously there should be some sort of calculated approach to how much that surplus should be, what allocation of macros it should be comprised of, how you would go about titrating that up, how quickly you titrate it up, how you know if you're going overboard, should you take a break, why, when, shit like that. And he goes over it throughout the video, talks about some of the foods, Talks about his sleep apnea, which is notable, by the way.
Doctor, because I was just kind of curious to see if I could, enhance my sleep better. And I was diagnosed with moderate to severe sleep apnea.
Yeah, so a lot of bodybuilders don't even realize that they are literally killing themselves in their sleep. Not only are they killing themselves walking around with, high blood pressure, high body weights in general, using copious amounts of anabolic steroids, but in addition to that, when they're sleeping, their heart is literally going to war. Their fucking oxygen levels are below where it should be, and they're apneaing multiple times per hour, to the point where you're like partially asphyxiating yourself like all night, like fucking dozens and dozens and dozens of times. Like before I got my sleep apnea diagnosed, it was like there would be periods of time I would literally sit there for like over a minute straight not breathing, and then all of a sudden gasp for air, and then keep sleeping. And obviously you're never getting high quality sleep when you're doing that all night. And in addition to that, your heart is going to fucking war. Like it's guaranteed to take probably decades off your life if you have moderate to severe sleep apnea and you do not get it addressed. And this is something that a lot of people with that bodybuild in general, even natural guys, obviously gear definitely exacerbates it and allows you to get to a higher body weight, which ultimately increases your neck size, which ultimately is what's going to, be one of the reasons that could contribute to your sleep apnea. Obviously there are different ones and whatnot. But in general with bodybuilders, it's a physical, like mechanical issue rather than an electrical signaling issue. And the only way to attenuate it is either, lose weight, position yourself differently in your bed, potentially in an uncomfortable way that you can't even sleep well in, or use the CPAP. And the CPAP is honestly the go-to in almost every single scenario for most people. And it takes a bit of getting used to. There'll be some nights where you're ripping the mask off and fucking throwing it across your room without even realizing while you're sleeping. You wake up, the mask is goddamn out the window pretty much. But you get used to it eventually, and it is definitely worth it, especially when you get your incidences of apnea down to like 0 per hour, like literally like 0 point something on average every single night. It's a very, very life-changing experience when you can actually go from shitty sleep that's killing you to high quality sleep that is aiding your health. A massive fucking night and day difference in that. So that's good to hear he got his sleep apnea taken care of. And he talks about, he only figured it out 8 months ago, which is troubling though, because the guy, as far as I know, is in his 30s. So I would not be surprised if he's been literally dealing with it for years at this point. Like most bodybuilders go fucking multiple years without realizing they have it. And oftentimes it takes a significant other hearing you literally dying in your sleep to tell you, you're fucking dying in your sleep. Like, why are you not breathing? Why does it sound like you're gasping for air all the time? And then you're like, what? Like, you don't know, because you don't actually see or hear yourself, because you're like 1/8 into sleep all fucking night. You're just apneaing like crazy and killing yourself, but you never actually wake up. And it's not like you can visually like react to yourself because you're fucking asleep. And then you wake up and you're like, oh, bad dream, go back to sleep. In reality, you're like about to have a fucking heart attack. Like that's the crazy shit. So, he talks about the sleep apnea thing. He does goes back in the kitchen.
To assist my digestion. So I have to train my digestive system.
Talks about digestive health and whatnot. Further in.
We watch podcasts about people who know how to do this better than we do.
People don't even understand the reason you go to the gym is to create a need for food. The goal of bodybuilding is how much food can you utilize and transform into tissue.
And then he talks about the, how to allocate your training properly in order to actually acclimate to the food and to require it in order for building, packing on tissue, not just getting fat, or, the optimal way to approach incrementally increasing your food and whatnot, and like why you would do it, like how to do it in an intelligent way. But by the end of the video, he gets to kind of his summation of points about what he did, like why you should do it, what the best way to approach a bulk is. He mentions here bulk longer term, at least 6 months at a time. Period. And by the way, like as far as that sounds pretty long to most people. They think a traditional bulk, they think, 12 weeks, 16 weeks maybe at most. Like I'll be honest, like actually realizing that tissue gain, one thing I've noticed is if you don't actually kind of hold it for a certain duration of time, it falls off really fucking easy. Like there's definitely a reason why your body feels uncomfortable when you achieve a new like high, like I don't know why I fucking did this, like a high body weight. And when I say like high in quotations, because obviously that's a subjective amount, based on what your baseline was capable of before. So like, for example, when I started out, I was like 138 pounds at my same height or an inch shorter. And, you know, by the end of my first dirty, disgusting, fucking disaster of a bulk, I was like 200 pounds with a bit of a Guinness. And that was uncomfortable. Heavy breathing, felt like shit, blah, blah, blah. Now, over several bulk and cut phases over the years though, now it gets to the point where 200 pounds feels like light and good for me. That feels like normal, and it's like very sustainable and not uncomfortable whatsoever, but that's acclimating your body to it over time. So like from what I've seen, just anecdotally, and I don't know if there's any scientific literature to support this, but what I've seen is if you get to a new like goal body weight, sustaining that for a relative, like a decent amount of time is the ideal approach to kind of like realizing that tissue. So he mentioned, so like 6 months at a time. I don't think 6 months is ridiculous unless if you're exposing yourself to super physiological amounts of androgens, obviously that can be problematic if you're literally half the year blasting. So obviously you're gonna have to periodize your drug use like pretty substantial, like very intelligently, so you're not just blasting into the sky the entire year, because it's like, well, when you cut, if you're doing a contest prep, for example, what are you gonna do? You're gonna go right into cutting and then throw in more shit, like throw in the fucking hardeners, throw in the trenbolone sandwich on top. Like, it's like, obviously you need some sort of a break. So where do you do that exactly? Well, obviously you need to periodize your hormone use so you're not exposing yourself to ridiculous amounts of shit in your entire off season. It would have to be a more conservative approach and use the food as the main anabolic driver, which frankly, your recovery, your training, your food really should be in the off season anyways. Doesn't mean you don't need anabolics to get his size. It just means that you're not going to use as much shit as you would during a contest prep in your off season necessarily, or at least most people. Periodize your bulking caloric loads, i.e. gastric periodization. Progressively overload eating more. So again, circling back to the treating it like titrating up your weights in the gym. Like you're not going to go in and bench 3 plates on your first day in the gym, just like you wouldn't start off having 3 mutant mass shakes and fucking milk your first day bulking. Been there, done that. You're gonna puke all over the fucking sidewalk. Anyways, track calories and PR on weekly loads. Track weight, it goes up and down, normal. Your digestive system gets tired. Give digestive system a break sometimes, but eat more long term. Eat real food, eat solid food. Whatever fills you up is your max. Increase your max appetite over time. So these are all like good tips, you know, things that some of it's really fucking obvious. Some of it you will kind of learn as you go, I feel like the 6 month bulk thing. Again, I don't necessarily think everyone needs to do a 6 month bulk, but you know, like I said, when you're trying to like push the limits, when your body's already like, he obviously hasn't plateaued, he's still making progress, but I mean, he's a fucking veteran of the gym. For him to make substantial leaps in his progress, I imagine you would need to sustain a, you know, new high body weight for a relatively long period of time to kind of realize that tissue and kind of get your body used to this new uncomfortable weight, you know, whereas newbies, obviously you just grow like doing fucking anything, so it's a bit different. But for like veterans in the gym, you know, probably needs a more dedicated approach like that. Increase your max appetite over time, make small increases in calorie load, diet breaks are okay, reverse diet, eat more over time to gain weight. Sometimes you have to force feed. Force feeding every day is not necessary. Eat clean foods mostly, but add in dense stuff strategically if you plateau. Shock weeks for bulking work. Notice I said weeks, not months. Cardio enhances digestion. Very, very overlooked fact. People neglect cardio in the off season thinking, oh, it's just burning the calories I'm eating. Like, no, dude, nutrient partitioning is significantly enhanced. Blood glucose control significantly enhanced. You're way better off having cardio in your regimen at all times. You don't need to do HIIT cardio necessarily, but you need some fucking cardio in there. The sooner you digest, the sooner you eat again. Do more cardio, lift more weights, check for undiagnosed medical conditions. Sleep apnea, high iron levels, etc. Fix them. Blood work affects appetite. Good blood work means you assimilate food better. Yeah, that's true, because your organs work better. Bulking has ups and downs. Sometimes you blast, sometimes you deload. So stick with it for long haul and keep lifting. GoMad is for noobs. If you've never done GoMad, doing it once is okay. So let's listen to him cap it off and see if he decides to bring up anabolics, because as far as I know, he kind of skipped over that subject entirely.
Don't. Let's go downstairs.
Okay.
Oh, we have an empty whiteboard. Should we fill it up?
Yes.
We should fill it up? No, we shouldn't. We're just gonna leave it blank. So I'm gonna give you guys a summary of this video right now. going across the screen and scrolling text across my face right now. If you guys have any questions about anything that I've shared with you here, because I feel like these things have really helped me out. They were hard-earned nuggets of wisdom for me. Yeah, just comment below. Let me know, and I'll get to them. Sam, do you have any things that you would like to add to this video?
No, I don't.
You don't? Okay. Well then, if that's all we're going to talk about now, I'm going to end this video with some slow motion, off-season peak posing in front of these mirrors here that we have here. And in an upcoming video very soon, I'm going to be working with John Meadows, and he is going to give me some posing tips for my upcoming bodybuilding show at the end of the year, because that's what all this was about.
Okay, so he's prepping for a show, and he's kind of like primed his body essentially for a successful cutting phase subsequently to this. He's probably acclimated to very high food. It's going to make the dieting phase a lot smoother. He's going to maintain more tissue, and obviously he's put on probably new tissue, it looks like. But again, the title like definitely didn't sit well with a lot of people. Like the way it could have been titled could have been, you know, the way I approach, like, okay, obviously he's a fucking 1.31 million subscribers. Who am I to recommend a video title? And obviously this is way more clickable what I'm about to suggest. But like the proper thing would have been a spin around like how I, you know, might diet for getting this big, not necessarily how did I get this big, because the biggest fucking factor is completely missing entirely. So here's his Instagram recently. Like this guy actually legitimately has put on a fuck ton of size since he started. A lot of people don't realize how long he's been on YouTube, how long he's been making content for. Like this is him now, and this is what most people know him for, is doing the crazy trick shit, being a having good lifts, having incredible athleticism. And when he finishes this press here, holy shit, that's a struggle. That was fucking squeaked that. Holy shit, he squeaked that one out though. So anyways, here he hits a big fucking flex. The guy literally reminds me of modern like Ultimate Warrior. Like that's what this guy has essentially evolved into over the years. And if you guys have seen his OG content, you'll know he was not always he's not a mass monster, you know, but he's fucking huge. By layman person standards, he's a mass monster. This is what he used to look like when he used to train with Antoine back in the OG tricking days. Actually a fucking like genetically blessed guy. You see the abs, you see the cuts. Both of these guys are very genetically blessed, and it's no surprise they look the way they do now when they're, you know, doing this professionally essentially. A lot of people are probably shocked that this is Antoine Vaillant. Way back in the day, I think he was, I don't know, like 15 years old or 16 or something. Juji must have been like, I don't know, 17 or 18, I'm not really sure. Pulling 4 plates in a 25 or something. Just doing a little tan fucking photo shoot for themselves here. So anyway, this is what Juji used to look like. And then obviously if you go back on his actual channel, like this isn't even his channel, this is D4 Damage. Juji and Antoine training in the gym. You go look at some of his OG content, you can see where things kind of got a little bit saucy, you know, back in the day. Even as a veteran of the gym, you know, he's been training for fucking years at this point. You can see how much smaller he is than he is currently. So obviously this is not a natural transformation. The guy, after being in the gym for long spans of time, like again, he's been training since he was like what, like over 12 years ago or whatever. And 8 years ago, you know, after all your newbie gains are done, after you've been training for a while, he looks fucking great, don't get me wrong. But obviously this is nowhere near the Juji we see today. Fucking lean though, dude. And obviously he looks great, always has looked great. But then he starts to, you know, pick up steam in terms of, well, actually this is some of his OG shit too, before he kind of popped off and started doing his own fitness stuff. At this point, I think he was just collaborating with Antoine and doing tricking videos and whatnot. Yeah, like almost unrecognizable, dude, like with the amount of size he's put on since then. So anyways, obviously most of you guys know him the way you see him now, and shortly thereafter, a few years later, he really starts to fucking sauce it up, and he starts becoming like an actual bodybuilder. Granted, you know, he keeps his athleticism and maintains his niche, and he's very entertaining. Awesome fucking channel, by the way. I'm not trying to, you know, talk down about it whatsoever. Again, it's just something that, let's see, the most recent ones, yeah, obviously he's been jacked for fucking pretty saucy for a few years now, but I think he's really stepped it up recently that he's stepping on stage, and it's definitely showing. You know, this is the heaviest he's ever been. Of course, that's the whole fucking point of the video. So how did he get this big? Honestly, all the shit he said plus a decent amount of gear. You know, I'm not sure why it's such a big deal to say, like, in all transparency, like, this is what I did. You don't even need to say necessarily what you did, but it's just the fact of even mentioning in passing, like, obviously it would not be possible to achieve this size without this, you know, kind of hormonal assistance. And I don't recommend you necessarily do it. I don't give a fuck if you do or don't, but this is how I got this big, was heavily reliant upon exogenous hormone support. So I think everyone knows the deal. I don't think anyone would think otherwise. Is it a big deal that he doesn't include that factoid in the video? I don't know. You guys let me know in the comments down below. The main reason I'm making this is Juji is a cool fucking dude. I've seen him comment a couple times on my videos. I don't know if it was him or Tom, but at the time, you know, one of them on the channel commented on my shit. And I've been a fan of his stuff and Antoine since like way back in the fucking day. Like before they were even like, you know, famous YouTube guys and like pro bodybuilders and, you know, on TV shows and shit. I was following their stuff as like a young teenager. So, yeah, you know, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. There was a Reddit thread specifically on my subreddit that brought this up. You know, people weren't too happy about it. And a lot of people in the comments section of his own video, you know, it's pretty fucking transparent how people feel about, you know, the like to dislike ratio is good, obviously. But I mean, you know, when this kind of thing comes up, it's almost like, come on, dude, like what the fuck? So anyways, is it a big deal? Let me know in the comments down below. Like, subscribe, check out my blog, moreplatesmoredates.com. Follow me on Instagram at moreplatesmoredates. Facebook, Snapchat, BitChute, Twitter, TikTok, Apple Podcasts. If you want to support the channel, you can check out anything I'm associated with in the video description below. My TRT clinic. It's all telemedicine from the comfort of your own home. I recommended lab tests and diagnostics to stay on top of your health, especially if you're exposing yourself to exogenous hormones. You definitely need to be staying on top of your biomarkers on a regular basis, as well as getting organ imaging. Highly recommend you do that on a regular basis as well, at least annually. And anything else I'm associated with, it's all in the video description below. Thank you guys for watching. Talk to you soon.